Take a deep breath with me, acknowledging that you are still here. You are listening, which means you give a shit. That's a very good thing. And today, we got to go there. My love, we got to go there. We are going to be talking about patriarchal bullshit in the coaching industry, the self help industry, the healing industry, the therapy industry, and how it is fucking you up and fucking your clients up. This is the Fuck the Patriarchy podcast, practical strategies for women, for coaches and aspiring activists who want to effectively disrupt misogyny, money grubbing, white dominance, and so many other expressions of patriarchal bullshit in themselves, their clients, and communities. I am Megan Jo Wilson. Some of my identities are artist, activist, mother, musician, entrepreneur, and author of the business books Who the Fuck Am I to Be a Coach and No More Playing Small. And yes, I am also a life coach. Since 2004, I have coached thousands of humans, from CEOs to street musicians. And while the industry has changed so radically, my mission has remained the same: to liberate myself and you from internalized systems of oppression and to disrupt the external systems that want to keep us all small, silent, and compliant. In other words, we are here to stand for and believe in an entirely new world. Let's fuck it up. I have been in this industry for 21 years. I did my first coach training in 2004. At the time, I was a dive bar musician. I was working in a restaurant as a salad prep cook, a line cook. I was working as a farmhand on a produce farm in the summer. I was doing lots and lots of odd jobs when my brother introduced me to this idea called life coaching. I did not know what it was, but I knew that he was fired up about it, talking a lot about his inner gremlins and my gremlins and how they were just getting in the way of what was possible. And because I love my brother very much and trust him very much, and because he had a discount for the first course, I said, fuck it, as I so often do. My intuition said, yes, something is here for me. And so I drove in my Honda Civic with the muffler tied underneath by a hanger so that I could make it to Providence, Rhode Island, to a conference room in a hotel with about 20 other people who were there to spend 3 days learning the basics of a model called coactive coaching. I had a deep knowing that this was very important work, that this was spiritual work, that this was work that was not just therapy. I had done therapy before, but this model was intuitive, it was creative, it was focused. Maybe that's what I loved most about it as an Aries and a woman who highly values efficiency. This work was focused, it was client led, it was somatic, it was not just about what the clients were going to do, but who they were being and who they wanted to become, how they wanted to show up in the world. And one of my teachers described this work as a way to build love pods, sort of a counter to hate groups. If we can organize and learn the skills to be curious about each other, to listen deeply to one another, to believe in one another, to champion each other, to dare to dream, then perhaps we could build a more sane, loving world. At that time, I did not know what I know now in so many ways. The world is radically different. My life is radically different. My identity is radically different. But that model of coactive coaching remains the same. And it's the model that I still lean into. And in fact, it's the model that I still teach through the Coactive Training Institute as a faculty trainer. When I graduated from that course, and as I was training, I had to have practice clients, and I was very fired up and excited about this process and would tell anyone I could meet about coaching. Or, when they would ask, what do you do for work? I would say, I'm a coach. And they would say, what do you coach? Basketball, soccer? And I would say, no, I'm a life coach. And they would look at me like, what the hell's a life coach? I mean, truly, for the first 3 years of my early stages of building a career as a coach, I said, I'm just going to do everything I can to educate people about what this life coaching thing is and what it's not. Because it was so niche, it was so new, at least within the context of the self-help industry. These days, 21 years later, there are so many coaches out here, so many coaches. And there are some very cool things that have happened in the industry and some very toxic things that have happened in the industry. And we could talk about how patriarchy influences every single industry on the planet. But because this is the one I am a part of every day, it's the one that I'm going to talk about and rant about. The life coaching industry, unlike the therapy industry, the social work industry, is not, at least yet, a licensed industry. There are certifications. There is now an international coaching federation, a sort of umbrella organization that has attempted to outline standards of ethical practice. But the fact remains that no one needs to have a certification or a license to start a coaching business. This means that there are many, many, many people who see an opportunity to make money and call themselves coaches without any training whatsoever, without any integrity, without any ethical practice whatsoever. And while I am not huge on certification and testing, because in many ways it is a pillar of patriarchal bullshit, because it excludes folks who, let's say, can't afford to get certified, or folks who don't do well in traditional models of testing. There is a real danger to having these opportunists out in the market offering their services, often at exorbitant rates, with very little concern about the results they're getting for their clients. I cannot tell you, I would say 9 out of 10, as they say, people that I talk to who are considering hiring me as their coach, as their business mentor, 2 different things, coaching and mentoring, have said, I'm nervous, I'm trigger shy, I'm traumatized, I'm wary of hiring you because I've been conned by other coaches. And I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on coaches and programs that did nothing to support me and that, in fact, undermined my agency, undermined my confidence, undermined my ability to connect with who I am and who I want to be. This shit pisses me off. But the opportunity that we have as coaches who have integrity, as coaches who are aware of the systems and cultures that impact all of us, as coaches who are truly interested in standing for and building a more beautiful, sane, and just world, have an opportunity to stand out. So that's the good news. But we're going to look at the dark underbelly of the coaching and self-help industry. And as I go through these, I want you to track with me if you have used these tactics or are using them with your clients, or if they have been used on you. I will tell you it's true. All of these things I have either perpetuated because it's what I was taught, or it was done to me, or I had done it to my clients without even knowing that I was doing it. We're going to start with, where should we begin? Where should we begin? Let's start with the basic disregard of systemic oppression in the coaching and self-help industry. Let's start with a basic disregard of socio-economic realities. Because the coaching industry is not regulated, there is no standard rate. And new coaches ask me this all the time. What's a standard rate? What should I be charging? And I'm like, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that the standard rate ranges from $20 to $200,000. Actually, more. I had a friend who hired an untrained coach for $250,000 for the year because of the connections he had. He was a douchebag. He had no training and actually no connections that were useful for her. But she had a lot of money and she wanted the best that she could find. And she spent $250,000 on this coach. The good news then is you can charge really whatever you want. And if your marketing is good enough, and if you put yourself in front of the people who will pay that amount, and you can convince them that you can solve whatever problem they're grappling with, you really can make a fuck ton of money. The downside of that is you're going to have to come up with that number on your own. I have a process around doing that I won't go into now. And of course, this confronts all of us, women in particular, with the question, what is my value? What am I worth? What is my healing training worth? What is my coaching worth? The disregard of systemic oppression, is so interwoven in this industry. I can't really think of an area in which it doesn't exist. These are models created by white people. These are models that in general are rooted in cultures of individualism, cultures of it's a good thing to stand out and dream and believe and take risks, all of which are concepts that are not relevant for every person, depending on their lived experience and their culture. I've talked to a lot of people from other cultures who are in the classrooms, and essentially what they say is, well, I'm used to code switching and I'm used to masking up, and I'm very, very accustomed to working in systems where white norms are the standard. So it's no different than being in this classroom, being outside of the classroom, and being at work. Like, this is what we do. We assimilate to survive. And then, the white teachers and the white industry does what it always does, which is, you know, fuck you and your culture with a smile and a you're welcome. You're welcome that I am empowering you without considering your lived experience. Not to mention, so much of the self-help industry talks about vulnerability and talks about honesty and talks about transparency, again, without any regard to a person's lived experience in a racist, misogynist, patriarchal world. It is not so easy or safe for everyone to be vulnerable and honest, particularly in a group setting, where doing so could mean backlash, aggression, tears, criticisms, violence. It's really, really fundamentally woven into the industry in a way that you just cannot unsee once you see it. I will say that since I started this coaching journey, there have been many movements, many of which I am a part of, that are interested in making coaching more accessible across socioeconomic hierarchies. But basically, this is a rich white person's playground. So that disregard is profound. But let's go on to some of my favorite classics. The first of which is lying, manipulation, right? When advertising on television first came out, if you go back to those early ads where it was just straight up, it looks so silly when we look back on it now, but then it was just like, Crest, the very best toothpaste you could ever find. Is it though, Crest? Are you the best toothpaste? Or are you just saying you're the best toothpaste? This is what all marketers do. My service or product is the best or better than the competitors for this, that reason. And in the coaching and self-help industry, people promise a silver bullet solution. The silver bullet solution, meaning hire me and I will give you the secret sauce, the silver bullet, the one thing that you don't know about that's going to take you to Narnia, that's going to take you to a utopian land where you are healed, where you are complete, and where healed as if there were a finish line to healing. Okay, already a lie. There's no finish line in healing. There's no finish line in healing. It's a process. It's a non-linear process. You can heal something. It can be re-triggered. We all know this. I have a friend, a dear friend. I love her so much. And every week I talk to her, and every week she is on a new and different adventure of healing. I'm working with this woman who told me that she's going to remove my psychic shadows, and I'll never be the same after that. I'm going to a plant medicine journey. There is a kind of addiction to these programs that we develop because we truly believe or are conned into believing that this will be the thing. This will be the thing that brings us ultimate utopia. And does she come back saying, I'm healed? I don't need anything else ever again? No. Does she get something out of them? Sometimes. Sometimes nothing. Oftentimes something really valuable, and then still has another thing to work on. So the false promise of a healing finish line, of a silver bullet, is just a huge part, huge part of the coaching and self-help industry. Self-help too, isn't that a wild phrase? Because if it was really self-help, you wouldn't hire someone else or need to read a book. You would just help yourself. I remember going to an entrepreneurial conference, and one of the speakers came out and said, if you want to be successful, like, stop going to conferences. Stop going to these kinds of conferences and listening to people speak and inspire you. I found this deeply offensive, actually, because I knew she was being paid to be at the conference. She was at the conference. How dare you tell us not to come to a conference? You're at the fucking conference. I left that conference midday. False promises, lying, silver bullet solutions. You'll see them everywhere. There are certain things that I can guarantee as a coach. I can guarantee how I'm going to show up. I can guarantee the things I can give you, the tools, the practices, the frameworks, the skill, all of that I guarantee. But if someone comes to me like really pressing me for guarantee on results, I know that they don't want a coach. They want a silver bullet. I can guarantee to give you the practices, but I can't guarantee you're going to do them. I can give you the map to make 10K minimum a month as a coach. I literally can, but I can't guarantee you're going to do the things I recommend or be the person who does them. I'm very proud of the results I get from my clients. Very proud. They are extraordinary results. They're also results that are often different than the thing they thought they were going to get. Because that's what happens when you tell the truth and when you have skill and when you're open to exploration and going deeper beneath the presenting issue. But you'll see lots of silver bullet solutions out there in the self-help industry and the health industry. Oh, and the beauty industry. Oh, and the dishwashing liquid industry. You'll see them everywhere. Buy this thing and all your problems will be solved. Fascinating that we keep doing it. We have the evidence that the problem is still not solved, and yet we believe the next con that shows up, this will be the thing. We're so entranced by the idea of a silver bullet solution. These are terms that I learned in marketing. Scarcity and urgency, which, by the way, are pillars of white supremacy culture. Scarcity and urgency. We think these things are normal. We are trained to see them as normal. Well, they are in the context of a white supremacist, misogynist patriarchy. They're very normal, but they're actually insane. To say there's a scarcity of healing, there's a scarcity of time. It is urgent. It's urgent that you solve this problem. It's urgent that you figure it out so that you are not behind. Behind what? So scarcity and urgency are just inherent qualities in any capitalist system. But to bring it into the healing industry, hurry up and heal. It's just not how healing works. And actually, in the context of patriarchy, often the healing comes from releasing the notion of scarcity and urgency by actually feeling into abundance, which has been collapsed with financial wealth. Okay. So just notice when I say abundance, you think money. Abundance is abundance. Abundance is an overflowing of something. It doesn't mean financial wealth necessarily. That could be one form of abundance, but it's been collapsed into financial wealth in the self-care and coaching industry. Manifest your way into abundance. No, to be in the abundance of your riches outside of wealth, let's say, the abundance of beauty in your life, the abundance of breath in your life, the abundance of friends in your life, to release urgency, to go slower, to go on your own timeline. Those would actually be radical moves in a patriarchal culture. Those are often the quote unquote homeworks I give to my clients who are making good money but are miserable, who are wanting to get to the top but don't even know what the top is. It's a race to nowhere. What they really want is a feeling of contentment, satisfaction, self-approval. Sometimes what's required is healing, unlearning, deconditioning from thoughts of scarcity and urgency, but it's everywhere in this industry. Okay, what about spiritual bypass? I mean, I'm realizing like the list I have in front of me is so long. I'm already aware that we're not going to get to all of them. Oh, spiritual bypass. You know, one of the terms that's come up recently, and I do appreciate it, is toxic positivity. And if you haven't heard the term spiritual bypass, it's a sort of a way of claiming spiritual superiority, which is so ironic. So fucking ironic. Because anyone who's done real spiritual work has such a deep humility. But when you claim spiritual superiority, you position yourself to have a lot of power over people who are looking for someone to fix their lives. And you can misapply or distort spiritual concepts in order to demand what you want, demand others to give you what you want, to avoid accountability, to avoid responsibility, to avoid difficult feelings. This is why it's called toxic positivity. This idea that if you're not happy, something's wrong with you. My friends, I say this all the time, like, no one's happy all the time. If you are happy all the time, then I actually am worried about you. But that is so not the goal. It's certainly not the goal for me with my clients. It's not the goal in my own life. Do I want fulfillment? Yes. Do I want alignment? Yes. Do I want a feeling of living on purpose consciously? Yes. But I also want a feeling of wholeness, like the whole person. And if you are attached to your clients or yourself feeling good and positive all the time, you are really setting yourself up for another race with no end and a lot of misery, paradoxically. The law of attraction and the law of manifestation and that whole wave of bullshit is very much, to me, in the field of toxic positivity. Now, quantum science is real. The law of attraction is real. It's proven by science. It's about vibration. However, there's a whole subculture industry within the coaching and self-help industry that is based off of this idea that you must think good and positive thoughts all the time in order to manifest what you want. Typically, something that looks like rich, thin, young, successful, like lots of followers, lots of likes, big platform, big stages, lots of fans. And you can have all of that no matter who you are if you just think good thoughts. Just think good thoughts. There are entire coaching models built on think better thoughts. Does mindset matter? Yes. Do our thoughts create reality? In fact, they do. But look at the shadow side of this. Pay me a bunch of money first and foremost so that I can teach you to think better thoughts and then shame you for thinking bad thoughts. I was on a call this week, 3 days ago, talking about money trauma. And one of the women said, I don't want to write my desire list, MJ, because I'll start thinking about what I don't have. And I'm really scared. These were her words. I'm really scared that if I think bad thoughts, I'm going to manifest what I don't want. And it will be all my fault. And what I said to her was, I recommend lightening up on yourself around this whole thing and have the way you feel be your compass. Because that's really what we want. We want the feeling of contentment and peace and fulfillment and joy and purpose. Can you see how this sort of fun house of mirrors plays out in this game? You are a human being designed to feel a broad range of emotions. I personally have no value judgment on, I actually don't even call feelings positive or negative. I might call them heavy or light because there is a vibrational frequency to them. But with my people, I'm like, yeah, come on in. Let's actually remember what it means to feel. Let's actually connect you with your grief so you can actually be with it without shame. So you can be with your rage without shame. So that you can be with your shame without shaming yourself for feeling shame. So that you can be with the wholeness of who you are and let it be, let it flow, let it happen. This is what it is to be an emoting human being. If all of us could connect with the full range of our emotional body, this would be a very different world. If you're looking at what's going on in the world and you have no access to heartbreak or rage, that's a sign that something's off. Most of the people I work with are like, I haven't located my rage in a very long time. Yeah, no shit. You think patriarchy wants women who are in contact with their rage and have no shame about it? That's a very dangerous human being to a patriarchal system. A woman who's in touch with her grief, her deepest heartbroken grief, about what she's seeing, she'll do anything. She'll do anything to fight in the name of that grief and that rage. So, silver bullet solutions, spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity, disregarding systemic oppression, telling people to just think better thoughts and they'll get better results. This scarcity and urgency, all of these narratives, not to mention fellow entrepreneurs, all the entrepreneurial narratives. You're a failure if you're not growing. You're a failure if you don't want to be a millionaire. You're a failure if you're not thin and young and fucking dancing in front of the Eiffel Tower or doing a retreat in Bali. You're a failure if you don't have a huge platform. You're a failure if you're not rich, and you're a failure if you're not investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in your personal growth. Because in this industry, the narrative is you really believe in yourself, you'll spend a lot of fucking money working with me. And if you don't, you really must not believe in yourself. This is shit I was taught in sales. And let's just name. Okay. I haven't done the research, but I know, at least in the training I have done, because I have done the research there, that much of what I was taught, the tools and practices, actually comes from indigenous people's wisdom, actually comes from true initiated witches and medicine women, true priestesses and shamans who, believe me, are not on Instagram talking about I'm a shaman. Most of the actually effective healing processes are rooted in ancient cultures that were not at all connected to white, colonial, capitalist patriarchy. But white, colonial, capitalist patriarchy knows better than any culture how to extract value and repackage it and sell it with a white face for profit. You know what? Let's take a breath. Let's take a breath. Breathe with me. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I'm going to be real honest. There have been times when I have thought, this industry is so fucked up, I simply cannot do it anymore. But don't let that be the case. I refuse to let that be the case. And don't you let that be the case. You need to fuck up the patriarchy by operating in a way that is contrary to all this bullshit. You know, can I coach with integrity? Yes, you can. Can I build a coaching business with integrity? Abso-fucking-lutely. Can I build a coaching business where I don't have to pretend to be something I'm not? Yes, please. We can't eject ourselves out of this system. We have to find ways to work within it. And we can do it with integrity. We can do it being informed, not lying, not manipulating. Real, effective, integral, holistic coaching is co-created. It's co-designed. It is actually not attached to your ego, coach. For those of you who don't know much about coaching, pure coaching is not advising at all. And it's also not wrapping your advice in the form of a question, as I see so many unskilled coaches do, because they know that coaching is about asking probing questions. So they'll just put their advice in the form of a question. What would be possible if you went to the gym 3 times a week? That's advice in the form of a question. Mentoring is advising. So when I'm working with a woman who wants to build her business with integrity. I am coach, where I have no advice. My goal is to listen to her, to connect her to her deepest knowing, her values, her desires, her juice, her turn on, her highest knowing, her intuition. And when the time comes and when it's appropriate and when she wants it, I can mentor her and advise her on my recommendations of what she might want to do with her marketing, sales, packaging, pricing, curriculum, simply because I've been doing it for a while and I have a little more experience on what works or what doesn't work. That's mentoring. Really effective coaching is skillful, deep listening, intuiting, challenging your client without fucking traumatizing her. Another thing I've seen in many groups I've been in, without triggering her, humiliating her, shaming her. This happens a lot in self-help cults, which are a thing. We haven't even gotten into those. And in my opinion, really effective coaching also recognizes the impact of culture, of politics, of socio-economic realities. If you're interested in coaching people outside of a white privileged bubble, here's what I want you to know. I have so many people who over the years have said, I hired you simply because you didn't pressure me to buy. I went shopping for a coach and you were the only one of the 5 or 6 coaches I talked to who didn't say it's either a hell yes or a hell no, which I don't agree with. If you don't say yes now, we can't work together later. You're clearly not committed enough. No, not true. Different people make decisions differently. Different brains function differently. Different people have different processes. It's possible to build a beautiful, successful, on your own terms, profitable business without subscribing to all of this bullshit. I hope that this has enlightened you. Thank you for witnessing my catharsis. I'd love to hear what you got out of this. If you want some help looking at your own business, looking at your own internalized patriarchal, white supremacist, sort of capitalistic money grubbing tendencies, all of which you've been socialized to believe, none of which are your fault. I can help you build a business where you're not manipulating people, lying to people, and making false promises. There's something so much richer. You can do it. And the truth is, we need more coaches, therapists, and healers who are aware of these dynamics in play. And I'm very encouraged to see more and more of us showing up and speaking the truth about this. You are fucking amazing. Keep fucking it up. And I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me in fucking up the patriarchy today. I hope you'll share this with your people, the ones who agree with you and the ones who think you're crazy. Go ahead and share it. The music you're hearing right now was written by yours truly from my original EP, Tin, which you can find on streaming platforms, or if you still have the CD player, let me know. I have about 400 CDs in my basement I need to get rid of. If you are a coach who wants to bring more informed cultural and political awareness to your business and to your clients, let's join forces. You will be amazed at the difference it makes. You can find me on Instagram at Megan Jo Wilson. MEGAN is the way I spell it, JO Wilson. Or go to my website, meganjowilson.com, to find free downloads of my books, worksheets, upcoming workshops on demand, and inquire about hiring me as your very own coach and mentor. I promise I will never, ever manipulate you into buying something you don't need. Take very good care of yourself, my love, and keep fucking it up. You are doing great.
watch you